Recidivism. In the U.S., recidivism in our youth is incredibly high. I personally work at a juvenile detention center that is named G4S Youth Services. We call ourselves a therapeutic treatment center. Here we believe in treating the biological first, getting therapy, and then trying to modify behavior so that we can program them back into the community. So I have seen firsthand how kids can come in. It's most of the time not their first offense, and go through the whole program, get out, and come right back in a matter of 6 months at the latest. A few of the things that I think contribute to the high rate of recidivism is the lack of resources, gang affiliation, and being released back into the same environment in which they were taken out of. First, let me tell you what recidivism means. It refers to the person that relapses into a criminal behavior, often after the person receives sanctions or undergoes interventions from the previous crime. One study tracked 404,000 prisoners in 30 different states after their release from prison in 2005. Here are the statistics from that study. Within 3 years of the release, about 2/3, 67.8% of released prisoners were rearrested. Within 5 years of release, about 3/4 of the released prisoners were rearrested. Of those prisoners who were rearrested, more than half were arrested by the end of the first year. 76.9% were drug offenders, 73.6% of public order offenders, and 71.3% of violent offenders. And this is according to the National Institute of Justice in 2014. Like I said, another big reason that the youth are recommitting is gang affiliation. Majority of the youth that I come in contact with at the TYC are not first-time offenders, like I mentioned earlier. Not to say that there are no first-time offenders, but they're just few and in between. We do a lot of gang therapy. While gang activity is unacceptable at our placement, sharing about their past and helping them realize that this is a risk behavior is something that we are very big on. Gang activity has grown increasingly high in America, especially in our youth, due to the appearance of nice cars, quick money, and a sense of brother or sisterlyhood. 40% of all gang members are under the age of 18. It has been reported that gangs recruit children as young as 14 years of age. Because of this type of lifestyle is introduced so young, it is almost impossible to imagine life without their gangs. With a gang mentality, the young men I meet, they feel that they are earning a sense of respect or entitlement when they are in jail. Another statistic about gang members are around 67.9% of youth that enter the TYC because of gang activity will be released and recharged for the same crimes. Most gang members are being initiated or at least being groomed by the age of 13. Another large contributing factor is the lack of resources. Majority of our kids are coming from low-income home. Like I mentioned earlier, we believe in fixing the biological first, which means that a lot of these kids are having to be put on medication for ADHD, mood disorders, or just behavior disorders. If they're coming from a low-income home, they may not be able to afford the medication needed to stabilize them. With that being said, if a parent is in and out of a job or has low or cannot afford the medications, then you're almost setting them up to not succeed. Another big contributing factor is the lack of school. School takes up about 8 hours of our day. It's almost the time that we adults are at work. If a child isn't going to school, that's a lot of free time get into trouble. One of the things that we do at our facility is identify risk and protective factors. School is always a protective factor because it is a structured leisure time activity. You need structure in your free time because free time tends to let the youth get in trouble. 3 out of 5 of the kids in TYC reported that they did not attend school when they were home. Not attending school on a consistent basis allows for a lot of free time. There are many youth that are put on ADHD because of activities or acting out during school. But majority of that is coming from going infrequently, going to school for a few days and then going out. Very inconsistent. I want to show a few more statistics about the gang activity before we move on. Here is a chart on the gang activity with the ages. As you can see, when we get to 13 years of age, it skyrockets pretty high up. 14 is at the highest, and then it kind of drops down from there. And this is what I meant by they're looking and they're grooming around this age. So about 14, they're already pretty heavily into the gang activity. This is another statistics that I found. Adolescent risk behaviors by a family at low income. Although youth from low income families are likely to use or sell drugs as their higher income counterparts, the former significantly more likely to engage in criminal activities. So you can see that the use of marijuana is one of the biggest things on here. Fights, that's a lot of kids get into fights these days. It's almost promoted on the internet, I feel like. The blue is low income, the green is middle class, and the purple is from high income. So you can see that green is always at least the second highest on each of these things. And then blue, which is a low income, is looking like it's leading on most cases. One of the most important and my last points of why recidivism is so high is once they come through a treatment center and they do get the treatment they need, they get on the meds, they get stabilized, and we can start to modify some of the behavior. Once it's time for those kids to go home, they're getting released right back into the environment in which they were taken out from. So if this kid was in a gang and he was taken away from that lifestyle and transition and was starting to learn, and then we put him back into that lifestyle, that's almost taken away from all of the positive that we've put into him. So one of the things that our facility, I know a lot of facilities are trying to do, is start to look into halfway homes. And facilities like juvenile detention centers are always evolving, always. So this is still new and we're always learning. But the problem with halfway houses as of now is that sometimes they're just as polluted with drugs and gang activities as going home. One of the statistics that I found about the halfway houses are 3 out of 5 halfway houses are polluted with drugs. Because most halfway houses are not secured and do not have supervision, there's a lot of leeway. Another thing with the juveniles, if you're not, I think you have to be at least 16 if you're emancipated, 17 if not, to even be eligible to go to a halfway house. So if you're too young and you have to go back home and that's not a situation that they would prefer to be in, then they could be put back into a poisonous atmosphere. Facilities are adapting every day. Hopefully they will soon open halfway houses that make therapy available for them. Recidivism is a serious problem in the U.S. There are many reasons for such a high rate in returning to jail once released. These are just a few that I listed, such as, the low income, gang affiliation, and lack of resources. Although they are not only just those causes, but I feel like if we could remedy those, then the rates would decrease enormously. I feel like our kids are the future, and that's just not a saying. And I feel like if we can fix some of these things, that our numbers would really drop.